So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Eazy Conversations. Thanks a lot to everyone who listened to the last episode featuring the homie Zach. Zach, you absolutely killed it on there, and we look forward to having you on again down the road. Time for episode 115 of Eazy Conversations. I'm extremely excited, of course, to be back in the studio virtually with the homie Matt. So, what's up, the people?
What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a great day right now. I'm excited for today's episode. We're going to be doing another list, and those are one of my favorite formats. Eric, why don't you tell everybody what kind of list we're going to make tonight?
Absolutely. So, yeah, no, another classic list format that we always seem to have a good time with, and I think this one will be no exception there. So, we're going to be doing our top 5 action movie protagonists list. Kind of saw it as a foil almost to our Every Hero Needs a Villain episode way back in 2020 when we listed off some of our favorite antagonists in films. So now we're doing the flip side to that with some protagonists, but focusing specifically on action movies. And I went back and listened to that episode we did with Bassam actually, and a lot of the villains that I took, or a few that we all took actually, were from big franchises, especially like Marvel movies as well, which for me in making my list I tried to stay away from those. I was made a last minute switch up for one of mine. So I'm excited to get through those and highlight some traditional, I guess, action movie heroes while steering clear from the sometimes supernatural. But no right or wrong answers here. Just saying that was my thought process and how I made my list. How was making the list for you, Matt? Was it difficult, or the names like jump out right away for you?
Making my list, it would have been very difficult if I included every single thing, like what you said. Like I didn't include any Marvel, DC, giant, like any sci-fi or fantasy. I went more like traditional action, like down on the streets and like more realistic, I guess. Even though none of these movies, like that, my action hero are very like larger than life. But anyways, it was pretty easy to make once I eliminated a bunch of other ones. So no, I'm satisfied with my list. It's very like, well, I'll get into it when I announce my first pick. But no, it was very easy to make for me.
Okay, nice. Yeah, mine obviously kind of like you. I trimmed some of them, like reduced the scope, I guess, of movies to choose from. I still ended up taking from movies that are kind of fantasy, like have fantastical elements to them, but no superheroes. Like obviously, I would have liked to have like, if you're going to superheroes real quick, I'll just throw in there like Iron Man, Batman, and I like, just for the simple reason that this actor plays the character so well. Wolverine always stands out to me in terms of a cool character that funny lines and has great action sequences and an interesting arc as well. So like those are three I would have looked at, but I omitted them for making my list. So in saying that, I can kick us off with our list, Matt. And this one like is kind of questionable, which is why I want to get it out of the way first, because it is from straight up a fantasy trilogy, and I'm going to go with Aragorn from Lord of the Rings here. I think now that you might, hey, if you want to debate this one with me, by all means, go for it. But when I think of all-time protagonists, he is one for me. In for a lot of the reasons that I listed earlier for the superheroes, very cool, heroic, great leader, has awesome fight scenes, and is kind of a troubled character as well that has issues with like morality and accepting what he's supposed to be based on expectations that people have from him because of his lineage, and you kind of see him struggle through becoming who he's meant to be, which is the king of Gondor and the man who will bring balance to the force, if you will. And I just love his journey from Ranger Dunedain Ranger to end up being the king in the end, and is a mentor and a guardian kind of to all of our hobbits, the leader of the fellowship in a sense. He's the one I have the least really prepared to speak on. That's why I wanted to get this one out of the way early. But Aragorn for me is one of my favorite protagonists, and would be doing a disservice to leave him off my list. So that'd be my first pick.
It's a fantastic pick, Eric. He would have made my list, but I didn't decide to include any fantasy. Aragorn may have been my number one, really, because Viggo Mortensen portrays him perfectly. What a badass in the fight scenes. the quotes, everything about him exudes leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And can we just take a moment and say how badass Viggo Mortensen, the actor, is doing all his own stunts? As great as a horseback rider as anyone on set, as told by the people like filming it, just as good as the stuntman. Parries a knife with his sword during during the Lord's fight scene in the first one. Did that for real. Among many other moments like that, like people have told stories about Viggo and his mystique and his overall badassness. He is Aragorn. Love that actor. Great pick, Eric. Love
Thanks,
it.
man.
I'm going to go with my number 5 now. Completely different. Like I said, my list is very based on these action movies I just devoured when I was a teenager. All these people on my list are movies. All the heroes on my list are from movies that I've binge watched as a teenager and were very impressionable to me and are super like iconic, in my opinion, in the action movie genre. But anyways, my number 5 is John McClane, played by Bruce Willis in the Die Hard franchise. Die Hard 1's one of my favorite action movies. Super rewatchable. I even like Die Hard 2, Die Hard 3, 4. 5 is not very good, but the strength of the first 4 movies, I had to include them. Super quotable in the first one, like just a great character, a cop, put into like just thrown into the situation in the first one and has to save the day. This is the definition of like an action hero, in my opinion. But yeah, John McClane's my number 5. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I love that pick. John McClane too. One of my favorites. Like Die Hard for me is one of my favorite Christmas movies and action movies in general. And super quotable, like you said. Like a quote that I think I've already said this on the pod there, but I'll repeat myself. When he's on the roof with Hans, who's pretending to be Bill Clay, and then McClane hands him a gun, and then he holds him at gunpoint, and then Hans Gruber actually goes to shoot John, and then you see that there are no bullets in the gun, and then John takes the gun from him. No bullets. What do you think of fucking stupid Hans? Like, that always kills me. And that's the beauty of Die Hard, and a big, obviously, major factor of that is Bruce Willis as John McClane is it still hits every single time. All these lines I've heard, like, probably close to a dozen times at this point, they still make me laugh. And it's in large in part due to Bruce Willis's charismatic portrayal of John McClane. And I love that pick. He really obviously makes the movies. The main characters are action hero protagonists. So good. Yeah. And I actually haven't seen any of the other Die Hard movies other than Live Free or Die Hard, which is actually the first time I was introduced to the Die Hard franchise. I hadn't even seen the first one. I saw Live Free or Die Hard in like 2007 or whatever that would have been. I remember we rented it at Rogers. Yeah. I remember not hating the movie. I thought it was fine. But is that the one with Justin Long, first of all? Just making sure I'm not getting mixed up. Okay, yeah, it was that one. And then I might have seen a scene from the fifth one, or if there's a sixth one, I'm not sure, playing on TV, and it just looked god-awful. But yeah, Die Hard, classic.
Yeah, the fifth one's terrible, and the first three, like, 3 is the second best one, undisputably. Then it goes 1, 3, 4, 2, 5. That's the order of goodness.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I actually have, like, this, I got this for Christmas from my parents, is the Die Hard movie series collection, up until, I think, the fourth one, maybe the fifth. Maybe it's all of them, I'm not sure how old the series is, but I definitely have to check them out then. I know there's one with Jeremy Irons that they say is pretty solid. Like, he plays Hans's cousin or something, brother.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Okay, no, I'll add those to the list for sure. I mean, they've been on my radar. I have them physically, but you know me and my track record in having physical copies of movies and then just never watching them. But anyways, so no, love that pick, Matt. My next one I'll go with is, now if we're going in order, this one would be a toss-up with the one I was going to say for fourth initially, but I'm going to go with this one instead. Great preamble for what I'm going to say. Is a character I've already talked about on the pod, actually before you joined, Matt, and it was someone in a movie for which I remember you citing the episode that we did that you enjoyed quite a bit, and that we omitted talking about True Romance as one of this filmmaker's movies, which would be Django from Django Unchained. Love love this character. I mean, I still remember watching Django Unchained for the first time. I went to HMV at the mall and bought Pulp Fiction, Django Unchained, and Glorious Bastards. Just wanted to rip those Quentin Tarantino movies. Like that was kind of my introduction to those movies, and I was hooked from the start. With that theme song starts playing with the montage of Django and all the other slaves walking through the mountains and the desert, and then him getting freed by what's his face there, Christoph Waltz, Dr. King's his name, right? King Schultz. Anyways, and then I just love the journey of the character from in the opening 5 minutes, he abandons he's broken free out of his chains and then becomes a sharpshooting assassin through the mentoring of Dr. King Schultz, and just how he goes through the world where there's obviously oppression going on and vile acts of slavery and violence against African Americans through like from white men in the on the countryside, leading up to Candyland, and then him just exerting his will, and it's a classic story of revenge, really, and just seeing him kill all the people as he progresses through the movie is unbelievable. Like I said, I love his skills with the guns, and just a cool character. Has insane drip too. Love his style. The outfits that he's wearing in the movie is funny, and yeah, Jamie Foxx just charismatic in the role as he always is, really, and just an extremely likable character that you have to root for. And it's just an incredible movie. Honestly, you have these strong characters that help make it into the fantastic movie that it is. But Django is that dude. He's the guy you want to see get his girl back and kill everyone who's wronged him along the way. Like, you're cheering the whole time when he's at the end, especially there with Samuel L. Jackson. Just unreal finale with I count 6 shots, I count 2 guns, like just so good. And there's a lot of great quotes in there. And yeah, so Django would be my number 4 pick for action movie protagonists.
That's a great pick, Eric. I'm kicking myself. I didn't even think of any like Tarantino movie or kind of westerns, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. My list is very, I don't know. I didn't, good pick. I didn't even delve into like the western or war genres now that I'm realizing it. Like, you totally surprised me with that pick. Great job. And it's a super worthy protagonist, too. Saw that movie in the theater, freaking blew me away. Django actually is one of those movies, gets better every time I watch it. I've seen it 3 times or 4 times now.
Yeah.
It actually gets better, which is super shocking because not a lot of movies do that, let's be honest. So, great pick. Jamie Foxx, phenomenal actor. Tarantino, phenomenal director. He I don't want him to stop, so he needs to do more than 10 movies. But yeah, great pick, Eric.
Yeah, thank you. I actually want to I'm replaying scenes of the movie in my head right now, and I want to rewatch it ASAP. It's a commit. Like, it's like 2 hours and I want to say close to 40 minutes, maybe a little under that, but it's a long movie, but so worth it. Like, if you haven't seen Django Unchained, check it out. I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix right now, so take advantage of it while it's still there. Like, go check it out. It's unbelievable. One of my favorites of Tarantino. Like, that'd be top 3 for me, I'd say.
Honestly, years ago, it would have been in the bottom of my Tarantino rankings, but it goes up there every time. His movies age so well too, Tarantino. But anyway, that's another discussion. My number 4 action hero is someone we'll be talking to a little later, actually. My number 4 is Ethan Hunt.
Okay, let's go.
Played by Tom Cruise. When I was building my film collection when I was a teenager and I was 15, 16, one of the first Blu-ray sets I bought was the Mission Impossible trilogy, because that's what it was at the time, 1, 2, and 3. And I watched those movies a lot, fell in love with them. I'm also a massive Tom Cruise fan, so that really helps with likability of this character. I like seeing the evolution of Ethan Hunt in every movie. He's totally different in 1, 2, and 3 than he is in from 4 to 7. Um, no, just a great character, funny, charismatic, great, like under pressure. I mean, look at in the first one, his iconic scene in the first one when they're breaking into the CIA and trying to steal that like microchip or whatever the plot is in the first one. It's been a while. In the second one, he's super badass, peak physical Tom Cruise shape in the second one. But we'll talk about Mission Impossible a little later. Ethan Hunt's one of my favorite like protagonists in action movies. Awesome. Well, I'll touch more on him later.
Okay.
What do you think, Eric?
Nice. Well, to save some thoughts for later as well, I'll just say it right now. Like, I have not seen all the Mission Impossible movies. My introduction was actually Ghost Protocol, so the fourth one that I saw in theaters, and I have not seen 1, 2, and 3. So I'm still, I feel like, missing a lot of vital backstory on this character, and obviously when we talk about Fallout, or the Dead Reckoning Part 1, we'll touch on that. But yeah, so I'm missing a bit of like I said, background on Ethan Hunt. But I've been a fan of the character in every movie I've seen him in. Always some good twists with him, and always in control. Like, he's never really caught off guard. Like, he's always got his own plan that he doesn't share with everybody, and usually comes out on top. So I know Tom Cruise, like, just the fact that he does all his own stunts too, right? Just naturally elevates that character into an upper echelon that a lot of the other, like, and not to tip our hats at maybe other picks down the road, but like a Bond, John Wick, and Bourne were all amazing characters, but they're not doing stunts to the extreme that Tom Cruise does with Ethan Hunt. But it's so impressive. I struggle to say which one is the craziest one that he's done, and I feel like he's not. There's more to come too, so just unreal.
Oh yeah.
Spoiler alert: he makes it through Dead Reckoning Part 1. So, yeah, no, great pick, Matt. Great pick.
Thanks.
So, with my number 3 pick now, I'll go with, like I said, what I was going to say for number 4. It's someone, again, we've talked about not too long ago, a few episodes ago with our guest Justin Mocktinger, would be Caesar from the Planet of the Apes movies. Again, now we're really looking into the fantastical. Like, this is 100% impossible that we're going to see a talking ape. But Caesar, from Rise of the Planet of the Apes all the way to War of the Planet of the Apes, which, again, I want to rerun with that trilogy again, always fires me up when Caesar is on screen, seeing his rise all the way to the closing of his story in War of the Planet of the Apes is unbelievable. I've talked about his leadership. I actually watched a quick clip just to refresh my memory a little bit of him in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and the final fight scene at the end of that movie with Koba. And there's a lot of stuff I picked up in that quick scene, which was like 3 minutes long, when they're fighting in like the skyscraper area with like all the construction, and you see the mirroring between Koba's selfishness and taking power, literally taking power, not being given and asking for the respect of your peers through your actions, but really just imposing your will over others and telling them, like, I'm your leader, you're gonna follow me because I'm this strong, formidable ape. Whereas Caesar leads through more of a democracy, takes more of a democracy approach, and listens to his apes, is intelligent, thinks before he acts. And when all the debris starts falling down on the apes while they're fighting, Caesar immediately stops to fight and tries to pull debris off of the apes and help them out. Whereas Koba, this is a quick scene you might miss, he picks debris off an ape to take the gun that's under the debris and then drops the debris back on the ape, either injuring it or killing it, and giving no regards for the ape that had the gun around him. And he goes on a killing spree, kills apes, just trying to get to Caesar, and like that's their big code, right? Ape, no, kill ape.
Mm-hmm.
And ape, not kill ape. And that scene at the end is always gold when Koba's hanging off and asking for Caesar to lift him up, and then Koba throws in his face like, ape, not kill ape. And then Caesar just stares him down, Koba, not ape. And then just lets him go. It's just electric. So that's one of many great moments. Like, he preaches teamwork as well and working together, like apes stronger together. There's a lot to learn from him, honestly, which might sound crazy to say. There's a lot to learn from a talking ape, but he is advanced beyond his years, and his intelligence is supreme, as showcased in Rise of the Planet of the Apes. So no, he's inspiring. Like I said, an intelligent leader. Caesar is unreal, and Andy Serkis just nails that performance every time. Strong recommend if you haven't seen those movies. So good, Caesar.
Great pick, Eric. It's like it's a hidden gem pick. I love it because he's not a human. Like where I was obviously only thinking about like freaking human beings here, but freaking to pick an ape, a super intelligent ape in a super successful trilogy. We just talked about it with the Justin episode. Again, you shocked me. I never would have thought this would have made your list. So good stuff. I'm due for a rewatch on the whole trilogy. I've seen the first one so many times. The other two only once or twice probably. Great pick. You do learn a lot. You know, when he grabs the sticks in the first one and he puts them all together and he tries to bend them, he's like apes together strong, you know.
Yeah.
Just that moment. That's in the first one too.
Yeah. Nice.
The weakest of the trilogy. Like great pick, Eric.
Man, it's actually
you gave me chills talking about Caesar.
You too, just now, honestly. Just the stick thing is so unreal. Like, it's a trilogy that doesn't get talked about that much, and I'm happy that they're actually keeping it going. I don't know if you know this, but there's a fourth one coming out. It's called Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and it's in that same universe. Now, I worry in a sense because we're not gonna have all the key players that we had in the original trilogy, right? But I still think that if they follow the blueprint that the originals laid down and keep adding to that recipe, it could be very successful. But, you know, we're missing a top dog there. So, no, it's so me too. I've only seen War for the Planet of the Apes one time. And I remember Woody Harrelson just absolutely hated his character, but such a good villain, though. And, like, that, when we talk about some villains in that episode, like, if you can make us hate you that much, like, you're doing a great job. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, good stuff. My number 3, going from serious, like your pick's a very serious, badass character. Mine's a little more cheesy. However, well, I'll just say it. Mine, number 3, I have John Rambo,
nice.
played by Sylvester Stallone.
Let's go.
Stallone's one of my favorite actors for action movies. Just in general, I really like the guy. I really like his movies. Is he the greatest actor in the world? No. Is Rambo a great character? Yes, in my opinion. The first movie, he's in a franchise with 5 movies. The first one, called First Blood, is a 10 out of 10 masterpiece, in my opinion. A legitimately good movie. Not all action. It's more cat and mouse, stealth warfare type things. You know, he's being chased for all the wrong... Like, he's being unjustly chased by the cops, and it's a phenomenal movie. The next 2 in the franchise are super cheesy, but I mean, I think they're kind of fun. 4 and 5 are very brutal movies, violent, intense, gory, and he's really good in them, in my opinion. So you got 5 movies, you get some character development in there, but it's more Stallone just being Stallone, you know, like saving the day, being a total badass, taking down a lot of bad guys. This is like my comfort food pick. This is the perfect thing to throw on when I don't know what to watch. It's just cheesy, great action. You know, it's 80s action at its finest is what this is. So, yeah, John Rambo at my number 3.
Nice. So, Rambo movies, again, a franchise I'm not extremely familiar with because I've only seen the first one. And I remember loving it. Like, I remember seeing the gratuitous violence being just off the hook, and you know, obviously I watched Rambo, it was like a year or 2 ago, so obviously you know he's gonna make it all right, but just how he goes about like overcoming these seemingly impossible odds, and just going beast mode against all these people it is fun to watch, like the over the top and unbelievable violence there. It is cool to see. So I love that pick, honestly. And like that's what you want out of an action movie. I've really come around on sometimes in movies, like when we talk about Dead Reckoning, some of the stuff that happens, like, oh my god, that's so impossible, like that would never happen. I used to sometimes be critical of movies who did stuff like that, but like, why? This is literally what you want to see in an action movie, is the over the top, impossible, ridiculousness action. So seeing that is yeah, it is just fun to watch. So I love that pick.
Nice, thanks.
So I'm just so I forgot to add, like, I'm on the video side, I'm putting all of our picks
Ah,
along, but I hadn't been doing that until now, so I just had to catch up real quick. Now we're back on track. So we're at number 2 now already, and I could go either way on which one I'd rank as my number 1, but I've decided my order now, like I did when I flipped Django and Caesar. So for my number 2 is from a movie that I long cited as one of my favorites, and I think a movie that gets almost disrespected in that people scoff at it for some reason when it really is, in my opinion, like close to a perfect movie, very inspiring, unreal main character that'll just fire anyone up. If you don't get chills when this man delivers a lot of his quotes, like there might be something wrong with you, and that would be Maximus from the Gladiator movie.
oh yeah,
I'll just
love it.
add that up on the graphic there if you're watching on the YouTube. Maximus. So good. I mean, there's the obvious, like, are you not entertained quote that you hear everywhere. Like, everyone's seen that. It's a classic GIF. It's a meme, but it plays, it doesn't get old. And for me, like, some of my favorite interactions are between Maximus and Commodus, where they're truly foils of one another, where Maximus is the son that Commodus should have been, and then one looks at the other. Commodus looks at Maximus like, like you're the reason why my father didn't love me, and you created this impossible standard for me to live up to, and just being very bitter, no accountability, just being a rat, really. Commodus, amazing villain though, such a good job. But Maximus is the man in that movie. You talk about leadership when they're in the pits and they have to fight the I want to say it's like there's a tiger. It's been a while since I've seen this movie. Tigers or
Chariots too.
lions in the pit, and they all have to work together. Like, he mobilizes everyone to buy into his strategy. He's a formidable leader, so it does make sense that he'd be able to inspire and strategize in real time, adapting on the fly to ensure their survival. But in terms of quotes that he says that I love are when he showcases his prowess in the pit, and then Commodus actually comes down and he asks him for his name. He just says, like, my name is Gladiator, and then turns around like, how dare you turn your back on me, slave? And then he turns around and gives him the long speech, which I'm not going to read, but I wrote like the end, which always fires me up. Father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance in this life or the next. And just always chills. He's gonna get
Yeah.
him too. And that, I feel like I've already said this on the pod, but one of the most satisfying villain death scenes of all time, when Maximus just lays a shit kicking into Commodus after he stabs him in the ribs before going out for their 1v1 mano y mano fight in the Colosseum. Just that is kind of a microcosm of who Commodus is. He's a slime ball, will not play by the rules, and play dirty, essentially, to ensure his own victory. And not a character you can respect, whereas Maximus is the epitome of respect. And I love how the story ends, too. It's perfect. If in the hands of maybe another director, it ends a different way. But there's a lot of darkness in this movie, and there's some brutal scenes, let me tell you, like the stuff that he has to endure with his family. And yeah, I just love his journey from being a commander to a gladiator to a champion to someone who finds peace. It's just unreal. And yeah, he's one of my favorite characters. Russell Crowe always pumps me up in that one.
Wow. Did not expect to see Maximus. I didn't even think of Maximus, let's be real here. I didn't even think of him. I don't know why. Russell Crowe at that time, when in 2000, I think the movie came out, was like at the top of his game, one of the biggest actors. Hell, he won an Oscar for this role. He won 2 in a row, actually, I believe, for this and A Beautiful Mind. He was phenomenal in this movie. The movie itself is perfect. the score, the Hans Zimmer score in the movie. He did the score. It's amazing. I could play it in my head anytime I want. It's great. You gave me chills again reading that quote. I like the full quote. It's like a mini paragraph, but it's so satisfying to see Joaquin Phoenix's face, Commodus's face, when he finds out who it is. Like, what? He's not dead? Mm-hmm. Great pick. There's no one more badass than Russell Crowe in Gladiator. Like, at that time, that was like the apex of, for any historical movie or like period piece, like he's the best. Mm-hmm. Ridley Scott is amazing at making those movies, and I can't wait to watch Napoleon with Joaquin Phoenix, because I'm hoping for some badass moments in that movie too. So great pick, Eric. Never expected to see this on the list today, which is, you're surprising the hell out of me, which is great. Yeah. Maybe this pick will surprise you. My one and only female character on my list. I said I wouldn't do sci-fi or fantasy. This is my cheat. She's in a sci-fi franchise. She's in 4 movies. My number 2 is Ellen Ripley from the Alien franchise, played by Sigourney Weaver. I first watched Alien when I was very young. Loved it. She's not necessarily the badass in the first one, or at first when we meet her in the first movie, but she slowly has more courage and becomes who she will end up being in the franchise at the end of the first one. It's really number 2, Aliens, where she shines, and she's a badass, and she's escorting those soldiers back to the planet, and she's warning them, let's not do this. But anyways, extremely badass in number 2. Mm-hmm. Alien 3 and Alien 4, it's just like more, she makes those movies. They're not necessarily the best movies, but Sigourney Weaver makes them watchable, and her character has some really iconic moments in those. But I just love the strength of her character, and the fact that, I mean, in the first one, she doesn't get bullied around by any of the macho guys. In the second one, same thing. She kind of takes control after all the soldiers are like super clueless about what to do and are kind of like scared out of their minds. No, I just think Sigourney Weaver's a terrific actress, and it's because of this character, Ripley. Look no further than in part 2, the scene where she jumps in the giant robot and starts fighting the alien queen with this giant mechanized armor suit.
Yep.
And says, like, stay away from her, you bitch, when defending a little girl. But anyways, Ripley is too iconic not to include on this action movie list. She'll always be remembered for this role, and I'll always be remembered. So that's why she's my number 2, and yeah.
Yeah, I love that pick, Matt. And I debated her as well, honestly, but I haven't seen, like, compared to the other movies, I haven't seen Aliens specifically enough. I've seen it once in full. I can remember watching, and then another time, I want to say, on TV, I caught like more than half of it. I've seen it at least twice in that sense, but unreal. And I've seen Alien quite a few times though, but great movie and great character. Like you said, there's a big shift in the franchise where the first one I would say is like a horror movie, and the second one is a full-on action movie. And is that not Ridley Scott too directed the first one? So a nice little back-to-back symmetry, if you will,
Ridley.
In our picks. So love that pick. And yeah, I can picture her with the flamethrower against the Queen Mother, I want to say. Right? So yeah, no, that's great. I gotta spin that one again soon. It's been a long time since I watched Aliens, and I need no commercials this time. So good pick. I'm curious who your number
Thanks.
1 is. I have an idea, but I'm not 100%.
All right.
So I'll go with mine, and my last one, actually, I'll just say really quickly, has been mentioned already. So that would be John McClane from Die Hard. That's my guy for action movie. Die Hard, first of all, is one of my favorite action movies, if not favorite, honestly, because it hits all those marks for me. The action is great. The acting is great. There's humor out to wazoo, and the story is just interesting. And I feel like it's shot well too. I'll just say that to round it out. The 5 fingers of death right there. John McClane. Like, I didn't want to say too much earlier because I didn't want to keep some stuff for my number one pick. But again, if we're talking about quotes, another one that kills me is when he's on the phone trying to call for backup, and the woman on the phone says, "Sir, this line is reserved for emergencies only." No fucking shit, lady. Do I sound like I'm ordering a pizza? Always kills me.
I love line.
It's so good. That's the thing. I said it earlier in the pod, but the lines always hit. And I watch this movie once a year, and I'm never disappointed. John McClane is badass. He's a quick thinker too, and I love seeing someone come from a different setting into an unfamiliar territory. Like they keep referring to him as a cowboy, right? Like who rolls into town, saves the day from the gang of whatever outlaws or however you want to call them, and also featuring a great villain as well, Hans Gruber, one of the goats in my opinion. But John McClane, in my opinion, is a stronger protagonist than an already incredibly strong villain. Which for me, that's high praise. You all know this. I'm a villain guy, but John McClane takes the cake, and for action movies. And again, I'll talk about unrealistic scenes that I might have scoffed at in the past. When he's in the elevator shaft and hanging on by like the strap of his machine gun, and then the strap gives out and he drops down and is able to hold on into a little ventilation shaft. Absolutely impossible. Like your fingers cannot muster that kind of grip strength unless you're a seasoned rock climbing veteran and have chalk on your fingers. Like that ain't happening. But you know what? You accept it, and it's unbelievable. It's unreal. Love to see it. He has quite a few great fight scenes in there too, with Dolph Lundgren's character. I forget his name. It's escaping me right now. But when they fight, an extended fight scene too, just brutal. And as he's going through Hans's crew, like there's some hilarious kills in there. Love to see it. Good quotes, like when he's interacting with Hans over the phone or the walkie-talkie. Yeah, I mean, and there's something about also I just want to highlight. I like seeing characters in movies go through like the back ways of like building. So for example, an elevator, someone who goes outside of the elevator that brings you up and down and is in like the elevator shaft, and you're seeing the elevators move. Like I always find that cool. They do that in Revenge of the Sith as well. And seeing like the stairs that only a maintenance crew would go into, or going on the roof of a building like that, is always pretty cool. So just want to highlight that as well. A lot of great action scenes, and a lot of them happen in that kind of setting. So those kind of settings. So yeah, John McClane, number one.
Wow, love that pick, Eric. But yeah, like the setting is almost a character in the movie. In the first one, like that building is awesome. Quotes you said, like I love his interactions with the cop, the patrolman who like he tosses the body on his car to get his attention. Just him like curling up his toes, like his bare foot in the carpet. He's like, son of a bitch, you're right.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and taunting Hans with like having a dead body, and like now I have a gun, and like now there are only how many of you left, and like you see McClane's thought process throughout the movie too, like counting how many guys there are, writing the names down, like hearing the names on the walkie, writing them down, like he's figuring this out as we are too. It's great, and even some of the Hans's crew's hilarious too, like the interactions with that. I don't remember them like I can't quote them, but I remember like laughing a lot. No, like it's a phenomenal. It's a 10 out of. It's a masterpiece of a movie. So. But no, Eric, you need to check out Die Hard 3 because Jeremy Irons is almost as good as Hans as the villain, and it's a super good movie. Samuel Jackson's in it; he's great too. Good stuff. You can even skip number 2. 2 is good; it's just not as great as 1 and 3. But good pick, Eric. I did not expect that as your number 1, but I love that it's your number 1. You think you know my number 1? I'll give you 3 guesses.
Okay, well, if you're giving me that many guesses, I feel like I will not be able to guess it.
Yeah, you might.
Yeah? Okay, well...
Oh, it's not a dark horse pick or anything.
Okay. So, well, I'll just say, I guess, maybe people that I was considering that I did not include on the list. So I'll go with and try to make them make sense. I'll guess James Bond as 1.
Incorrect.
I'll go John Wick.
Incorrect.
Okay. Last one. I mean, there's so many options here. They're all racing through
Think
my
think
head.
think me as a teenager. What would I have watched?
Okay, well, now that brings me to a potential Goodfellas. And now with that wouldn't be action. Or would that be action? I don't know.
No,
So,
no, it's an action movie.
okay. Well, I mean, I don't want to keep the waiters listening too long there. 15. I feel like I'm probably blanking on something big. I'm not sure. Optimus Prime.
If the movies were better, maybe, but no. When I tell you, you'll be like, oh, of course. But so my number one is Neville Longbottom. No, I'm just joking. Okay, for real. My number one. I love this actor and I love this franchise. Well, the first three at least. But my number one is Indiana Jones,
Man,
played by Harrison Ford.
Damn.
I've seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, and Last Crusade so many times as a kid. Love those movies. There's nothing to me that in the action genre more iconic than Harrison Ford as Indy, be it like in the temple in the first one with the boulder, or on that rope bridge in Temple of Doom at the end. You know, he's all torn up, bloody. He's got people on both sides chasing him. He's got his machete. That's iconic to me. And in the third one, like the tank chase scene and the scenes in the ruins at the end with the Nazis, that's like nothing more iconic to me than that image, those images. I love the investigating in the Indiana Jones movies, like the piecing everything together, finding the clues, getting help from people, being chased by the bad guys or chasing the bad guys themselves. The settings in all those first three are great. His lines, is Indiana Jones like larger than life? Like nobody touches. Like it's a bit like all my other heroes on my list. Like no bullets hit them. They're never really truly in danger. They always escape danger. But I love that about action movies. Like you said, I suspend my disbelief. The reason why Indiana Jones is number one is because Harrison Ford plays him perfectly, and he's one of my favorite actors. He commands the screen. It's iconic. It's the most iconic person on my list, and that's why he's number one. He'll always be remembered for this character, and it's among other characters too, of course. But no, Indiana Jones is easily my number one. Freaking Raiders of the Lost Ark might be one of the best action movies ever made, along with Die Hard, actually. So, I mean, both our number ones had the first movie in the series is freaking perfection. So, yeah, Indiana Jones.
A lot of symmetry there. Amazing, perfect first one, forgettable second one, great third one. So, and then maybe off the rails after three. Should have stopped there.
Yeah.
But it's funny enough, man. This would have been crazy is that I almost put Indiana Jones as my number 5. So then both our number 5s would have been the other one's number 1. That's wild, and I'm kind of regretting doing that, to be honest, because I feel like Aragorn is the odd man out in this situation. But it's all good. You can't. I played my hand. Now I gotta lay in my bed. Anyways, so great pick. Honestly, in Raiders of the Lost Ark, I agree, one of the best action movies of all time. 100% best adventure movie of all time. And there's some sci-fi in there too. It's one of the best there. It's just such a good movie. I never get tired of seeing that movie. And yeah, I strongly considered Indy. Harrison Ford, maybe his best role too. Just, he was on top of the world in the 70s and 80s. And I want to say even getting into the 90s too, whenever The Fugitive was happening. That's a great movie too.
Oh, yeah.
Just on a run, literally in this case, from a boulder and oftentimes the Nazis. But unreal. It's so cool. Just exudes coolness in watching that character on the screen. But finds himself into trouble though, right? Bullets don't hit him, but he's not always in control. He's oftentimes playing catch up. He's dealing with other parties who are after the same thing as him, and he's trying to like I said, catch up to them. Like in the end, yes, he always does win. He's a winner if there ever was one. But yeah, his journey is never a given in any situation. So I love that pick, and I think Indiana Jones is worthy of the number one slot in any like movie character, like action movie for sure. So great pick.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I think we both have some solid lists there. Like names that
I agree.
other names I was considering were Indiana Jones. I wrote James Bond down. For me, that would have been Daniel Craig James Bond. Obviously, I think he does a great job at also not being invincible. Right? He also suffers physical injuries and emotional ones as well. A lot of his past lovers perish in those movies, and it's not always a happy ending for Daniel Craig's James Bond, which I love that as well, like going through some trials and tribulations. I also had Jack Sparrow up there, which might be an insane pick, but especially Curse of the Black Pearl nails it in that movie. Like that's a classic, like a franchise Kickstarter. It's so good. Nosedive to the seafloor level after that. But Jack Sparrow is a great character. But another reason that kind of goes against me picking Jack Sparrow is they kind of ruined his character with down the line, in my opinion. Like they went way too far with the stuff he was saying and doing. It's just perfect. If I had to ISO performance for one character in a movie, like Jack Sparrow and Curse of the Black Pearl, perfect.
Oh yeah. Just rewatched that one too last week.
I saw that actually.
Every quote in that movie, me and my girlfriend were trying to recite the dialogue, but it was easy because everything's so quotable. Barbosa, Turner, Miss Elizabeth Swann, like they're all so freaking amazing in it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good pick. I had like Aragorn, John Wick, James Bond. Had I seen John Wick as a kid, maybe it'd be on my list. But like the further back I go, like that counts a lot for me. Like if a movie's aged well, basically, because we won't know that until like decades go by.
Agreed.
But like. Eric, if we would have went like every genre, anything's possible. Like like Batman, Iron Man, like it would have been. We would have made a top 100. Actually, we could have easily made a top 100 if we include every single thing.
Yeah.
You know, thinking of like all these war movies that there's a badass character in, or like Mel Gibson in Braveheart, or all these historical movies, Troy, like Achilles and Troy, and stuff like that. I don't know. There's so many. I just stuck with like my teenager action movie, strictly action movie type thing. But this was such a broad. This could have been such a broad list, and I think we represented it pretty well. We only had one similar pick, but like there's so many freaking spy movies I'm thinking of right now where Ethan Hunt-esque characters. There's so many of those, and yeah, it was nice to hear your list because you like threw me for. You quite surprised me actually with Django and Caesar and all that. So, I like your list a lot actually.
Likewise, you as well. And I was actually thinking that there'd be a lot of overlap in our picks for some reason. I foresaw a scenario where we had like 2-3 same picks for some reason, but I guess went kind of not different directions, but just went with different franchises, which is great. Like more representation and not just saying, yeah, that's my pick as well. So it's great to see, and great to see that there are a lot of strong protagonists in a lot of different franchises, one-off movies that people can gravitate towards. And if anyone listening hasn't seen any of these movies, I would strongly recommend. And to me, it'll be a rewatch for a lot of them, but Mission Impossible, the first one's not seen. And that could kind of segue us into, I'm glad that you did pick Ethan Hunt. I didn't know if you were going to be honest. Like if you had to choose from those 4 franchises, like Bond, Wick, Bourne, and Mission Impossible, I thought one of them would be represented there and didn't know which way you would lean. But I like to see Ethan Hunt on there. Goes nice into our Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 recap. We both got to see it. I saw it this a few days ago. So when did I go? Tuesday. And going into it, had a lot of high expectations for it. I saw it was getting high praise as well. Like the Rotten Tomatoes score is really high. So right away you're like, all right, like I'm in for a good one, but I don't want to set the
Yeah.
bar too high. Like it's kind of tough not to have expectations when you're only hearing good things. But I'm really glad to say for me this did not disappoint. I really loved this movie. The action off the hook. It's what I've come to expect from Mission Impossible. They just keep ramping it up somehow, and Tom Cruise's Ethan Hunt just still nailing it in that role. Yeah, I mean, initial thoughts would be that. Matt, do you want to kick us off in the discussion?
Yeah, so I was super excited to watch this movie too. I hadn't seen the trailer. All I knew was it's almost 3 hours long, and it got good reviews. So I go in the theater. I didn't feel the running time at all. Like I thought it went by super fast for me. I was never bored. This had the perfect amount of like exposition dialogue, and then also like the good banter between Benji, Luther, and Ethan. It had a good balance of like showing all the sides but not going over the top, not all like they had a lot of exposition scenes in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel like they dragged. It kept a nice flow. Good villain. Good. Rebecca Ferguson was awesome again. Like you said in your review online, Haley Atwell was a welcome addition. She was great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really liking her more and more. Just watched a Black Mirror episode with her, and she was really good in that. Now I see her in this, which was a really old Black Mirror episode. But anyways, now I see her in this. So I'm like, man, she's a good actress. She can do more than just be in the Marvel movies, obviously. No, I really, really enjoyed the movie. Edge of my seat, breathtaking stunts. Me and my mom left the theater. We were super like satisfied and like we enjoyed ourselves a lot. Do you want to get into specifics now, Eric? Or
Yeah, we can get into like more spoiler territory here. So if you haven't seen Mission
spoilers? Or
Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, maybe table the rest of this for later. So yeah, love, like I already mentioned, the action, and like I said in my review, Haley Atwell I thought was great. Very strong addition to this cast of already strong characters. And a big thing for me the whole time was like the kind of love triangle between Ilsa Faust, Grace, and Ethan. And a lot of times we're being, as an audience, we're kind of being put in Ethan's shoes in that he has to make a choice which one he wants to save. Like we've seen this storyline before, but it did not feel old to me at all. I quite enjoyed it. Ultimately, disappointed with the choice he made. I'm an Ilsa guy. I did feel like it would be, if one of them had to go, it would be her, because they had spent so much time introducing Grace at this point. And you know what? She was fantastic up until this point. Like her and Ethan Hunt, great chemistry. And in my mind, I'm like, dude, you got Ilsa, man. What are you doing here? Like, why are you this into this girl? But you know what? It's all, you can't fault him for like choosing how he did. But I feel like it would have made more sense for him to actually want Ilsa to live more. And I feel like they moved past her death way too quickly. Honestly, I couldn't believe that.
yeah,
It's like he finds her in the street, like, that sucks. And then like, all right, Grace, you want to join our squad? That'd be my main critique. But that kind of leads me to wonder, would they do her that dirty? You know what I mean? Like, do you think she's not dead? Maybe like maybe I'm jumping the gun a little bit. We don't need to get into predictions and stuff. But that just seemed a bit odd to me. So I don't know. But all that to say, just to rewind a little bit, that fight scene between Ilsa and Gabriel was probably my favorite action scene of the movie. Like I loved on the bridge in Italy, swordmanship, and it was just epic. And like that whole scene, the buildup of the AI taking control and giving Ethan directions, like as Benji, was wild. Like there's a lot of good twists and turns in the movies. And I've just said I was all over the place there, but yeah, first spoiler thoughts for me.
no, that's great. I loved Gabriel as the bad guy. I can't wait to delve more into like the past with him and Ethan and those flashbacks that we were just teased in this movie. Teased that. What I was a little scared before seeing the movie. Like, what's going to be the next? Because in every Mission Impossible movie, there's like this doomsday weapon or super weapon or this thing that they got to take possession of. Kind of like in every Fast and Furious movie. Well, in this, they made it like a super AI thing that could control everything essentially. But I was scared that was going to be too like ridiculous or too overpowered or something so unrealistic. But I thought they handled it really nicely in this movie. Showcased its power at the beginning with the submarines, and we kind of forget about that, and then they bring it back up later, and then you're thinking, oh yeah, it tricked the whole, like, you play the beginning again, and you're like, holy shit, this thing's really strong. I like that they made the stakes really high for Dead Reckoning, and like for the two parts. Like, dude, this is good. Like, the end game is pretty big here. I can't wait for the second one. Like, the stakes are going to be even higher. The thing with the key, like, we've seen stuff like that before, but I kind of like, it's necessary to move the plot along, so that was fine. The way all our characters bump into each other at the airport, like introducing everyone. You got like the Americans, the main one, Shea Wingham.
Yeah.
You see him pop up in everything. I think that's how you pronounce his name, but like, he's great. Him and his buddy. The driving stuff in Italy was great too. Like driving the car through the streets and like they're handcuffed together. That was a highlight to me. I love car stuff now, so that was great. The train at the end, Eric, what a great set piece. Calls back to the first one, Eric. The first one, the finale is on a train too, like this bullet train. Okay. So this was very, like, to me, like the first one at the end, where I was like, okay, he's like kind of paying tribute, but topping it, making it even better. Because this is way better action-wise than the first few movies in the franchise. They've just upped the stakes every movie, in my opinion. And Tom on the motorcycle. He's always on a motorcycle. Love that they showed it in this movie's biggest stunt, really, where he jumps off the cliff with the parachute. My mom said he did that like 7 or 8 times, but freaking breathtaking, and you just hold your breath when that happens. What are your theories on Gabriel? Like, what do you think he's used to be a friend, or like, what are your thoughts on Gabriel as a villain?
So I loved Gabriel as well as a villain. I thought he was fantastic. Very scary, always seemingly in control. Like he said, like, by noon tomorrow, I will have the key in my hand, or whatever. Like, he's dictating the pace of when things are going to happen and how it's going to happen, too. I thought it was really, like, bone-chilling at times. Always, like, emotionless, too. I thought he was really good as a villain. So, theories are, initially, I thought, when they showed us a few flashbacks in black and white, having not seen the first Mission Impossible, I immediately assumed, okay, he's from the first Mission Impossible. Turns out he is not. He was not in any of these past movies I haven't seen. I Googled his IMDb. So I think he was a friend of Ethan's. My theory was that he used to work at, I was going to say MI6, but whatever. MIF, yeah, there we go. So I think he was a former friend turned foe, or turned frenemy and then foe. That's my theory, really, not knowing that much about how that organization operates. Like, when I jumped into the franchise, all I knew was Ethan Hunt accepts missions kind of on his own with a bit of assistance from his squad. So I think back when this operation ran under the CIA's umbrella, I think Gabriel and Ethan were colleagues. Could be completely wrong. But I don't think he's going to be the final boss, because we've seen him already. He's obviously we know he works for the entity, but is the entity going to be the last thing now that Ethan, he's obviously going to kill Gabriel at some point, and then is that going to be it? Like, he has to go into some sort of network in the submarine and find a way to unplug everything so the entity dies? I'm not sure. But I think there's going to be another villainous presence overseeing everything. And Gabriel is going to be like the apostle or the acolyte for this person. And it's like some sort of religion. Gabriel is like a fallen angel of some sort, if you will. So
hence the name, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know. I'm interested to see what's going to happen. And I just want to comment really quickly before we lose track of this on Shea Wigham. Like, I swear he always plays like the same kind of character, but it's always great. Like, he's always this incompetent, 2 steps behind, completely missing a piece of the puzzle agent for an intelligence agency. I just had to get that out there. It was gold. Like, even when he's talking to the other guy And he's like, maybe Ethan had a reason for going rogue. He's like, no, he doesn't have a reason. Like, what are you talking about? It's like so dumb, but it's great.
Like a shot at the Americans, right? Like telling them they're incompetent.
Yeah.
What I love about this movie, and also like the last, since number 4, really, the set pieces, the cities they go at, is incredible. Like, love it. Like, Ghost Protocol, like, the highlight of the movie is the Burj Khalifa scene in Saudi Arabia, or is it Dubai? Anyways, my geography's that, like, since then they've like had these amazing settings and action set pieces, and that's like really the highlight of the franchise for me in the last 10 years. And in this one, it doesn't disappoint either. Like, yeah, high chase scene is cool in the States, but like it's even better in like the tiny streets of Italy and Rome, right? Where the cars are small and there's narrow passageways, and that was freaking awesome to watch. It's a real treat. They had just the right amount of Benji and Luther, not over the top, just their perfect amount. Luther's been there since the first movie, the only actor to be in all the movies.
Other than Tom Cruise, I imagine.
Other than Tom Cruise. And yeah, it's the evolution of Ethan too is cool to watch. Like seeing him in this one compared to the first, like the first one's night and day. Which that's also a Tom Cruise movie that was unintentional, but
nice.
Probably one of his worst movies, though, in my opinion. Yeah. No, I love the character. This is a really fun movie. Can't wait for part 2. What do you think of the ending? Like, there's a conclusion to this movie. We know there's going to be a part 2, but it didn't leave you like Fast 10 did. I have seen Fast 10. That was more of a jarring, like, slam cut.
Yeah.
This one had a nice, breath at the end of like, all right, we can breathe now and let's take it over. Let's get out of the next day, Yeah. So what do you think of the ending?
Love the ending. Like it resolves itself within its running time. It's not, it's in the title. It's part 1 of this story, but there's a clear cut start and end to it. Whereas, like you said, Fast 10 ends like, really, like, it's a bad ending to that movie. Like, there's interesting stuff that happens, but like, you don't end a movie like that on a cliffhanger in the way that they did there. I enjoyed what happened to a certain degree, but where they chose to cut was like a horrible decision. Whereas this, there is a finality. There's a clear cut. Okay, now this is where we need to get to in order to stop the entity. We find out that, like you said, it mirrors the beginning. This is where we need to go with the submarine. It all comes back to the beginning. I'm looking forward to watching this movie again, honestly. And I'm looking forward to seeing how part 2 enhances this one. Similarly to Dune part 2 with part 1. For different reasons, but I think that stands true. And there's still a lot of unknown in this movie. They don't explain everything. They give us a few hints and teasing at who's pulling the strings and how kind of everyone's corrupted in this one, honestly, but there's no finality in that sense of Kittredge or whatever his name is, the director of MIF. He's shady now. I'm pretty sure it's not evident that he's someone we can trust. So we're going to get more information as to how he's involved in wanting to work with the entity or get control of it anyways. So no, it's a good leaping point to get to the next part, but like I said, resolves itself within its running time, which is, like you said, long movie, but it flew by for me. It didn't feel like a 2 hour and 40-minute long movie.
No, it did not. Well, you said something. Okay, director Kittredge. He was actually only in the first movie, so like he reprised his role that he did like 20 years ago. So I kind of, knowing that, I was like, okay, I don't think he's gonna be bad in this one. But who knows? That might be an ultimate twist in part 2. Right. Speaking of part 1s and 2s, that has been a trend in the last 20 years. With like Mockingjay part 1 and 2, and like movies being split into 2 parts to tell a bigger story. Sometimes those part 1s have been horrible, and part 2s have saved the part 1's ass. But I feel like this part 1, now part 2 has all the pressure to be even better.
Agreed.
It's going to be hard to top, but I don't think it'll be hard to top. It just has to be an epic conclusion. I don't know. going part 1 and 2 for a Mission Impossible movie, that's a bold decision. Let's be real here. Like, I don't see any James Bond movie ever doing that, or John Wick. Like, for an action movie doing part 1 and 2, that takes some guts. And friggin' part 1 was great, so now everyone's gonna flock to part 2. Part 2 is gonna make a ton of money because the first one was good, right? So, and I know this movie was supposed to come out years ago. Like, it was shot so long ago, actually, like 4 years ago. But no, I'm really big fan of the franchise. Honestly, part 4, just to talk about the franchise a tiny bit, part 4 rejuvenated Tom Cruise's career, in my opinion. He had a little bit of a lull between Mission Impossible 3 in like '06 to the fourth one in 2011. Like, he wasn't doing the greatest. He wasn't getting the big action movie role. But then when Ghost Protocol came out, he was back, and then he's making steadily making movies after that. Yeah, I mean, you've seen 4, 5, 6, Eric.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they all get a little better. Like, they escalate. Now they're at Dead Reckoning, the top of its game, in my opinion. Like, the top, the high point right now of the franchise. So, but yeah, do you share those thoughts too? Do you think 4, 5, 6, like, all crescendo towards Dead Reckoning?
Yeah, I agree 100%. And yeah, I also agree with your take on the part 1 and part 2, in that we've seen a lot of bad part 1s, or very slow moving ones, where it's all set up, right? Which this wasn't. There's explaining of what this new threat is, this world ending threat is, and good action in there, build up towards finding it. Where if we're to compare it to Deathly Hallows, for example, part 1 and part 2, where the objective is to find the 3 weapons to make one Master of Death. Deathly Hallows Part 1 moves at a glacially slow pace. And this one, we get movement ultimately starting, ironically, in a glacier, starting from the depths of the submarine to the end. We get there, but we have more information. We don't have all the pieces that we needed. Like, we have the key. I guess we have the key by the end of it. So we end up in a similar destination as we do in Deathly Hallows Part 1, where all of the Deathly Hallows have been identified. Now I'm talking about Harry Potter. And we know where they all are for the most part. Anyways, maybe this comparison is crumbling before before my very eyes, but you know what I'm trying to say. And yeah, it's I think part 2 will deliver. Honestly, I have no doubt in my mind that they're gonna nail this finale to the storyline. Like I said, I'm not convinced that Ilsa is dead, though. I just want to get that out there. Went out too unceremoniously, honestly. And we've seen characters like in this movie as well. The Paris character also got stabbed in a similar spot, I want to say, and survived. So we'll see what they end up doing there. But if not, I mean, we have Grace at least to carry the torch that Ilsa once carried. But Ilsa is a way better ally to have also. She's trained, strong, and an assassin. That's another thing that sometimes seemed a little bit odd, in that Grace is able to hold her own against trained bodyguards and security. They didn't make her overpowered though or anything. They did make her look clumsy and like really be using survival instincts to kick and claw her way out of these situations. But she just doesn't have the formal training that an Ilsa Faust has. And I was a big fan of her with the eye patch too, and the sniper. I thought that was a solid look. Yeah. And just badass. So we'll see what happens there.
No, for sure. You highlighted Mantis. I mean, Paris's character. He was freaking badass. Palm, can't remember her last name. It's so long, but she's Canadian, so she was freaking awesome.
Interesting. Did not know that.
Yeah, she's from Montreal or something. Like, she has a French-Canadian accent, so. Don't quote me, but I'm like 90% sure. And when Gabriel's like, "You will betray me, you will do this," and then like stabs her or something.
Yeah.
That was intense.
It was.
Movie. Can't wait for more, or can't wait for the second one. Did we have anybody submit on Instagram, Eric?
we got one submission from your mom, Matt. So Tom Mary, she
Oh,
submitted John Wick as action
oh,
movie
yeah.
protagonist, which
She seemed very interested in the topic when you posted that story. She like, gave me a whole list actually.
oh, okay. Do you have
Um,
others?
but John Wick, yeah, she loves John Wick, maybe because she loves Keanu Reeves a lot. But no, John Wick's a great pick. That John Wick, if we do this 20 years later, maybe he makes my list because there's like 7 John Wicks by then, and they were all good and they aged well. Maybe he makes the list. He's a little too maybe stoic for me at the moment. Like, yeah, the fourth one was great, but like his lines are nowhere near John McClane level or the other ones, Maximus. Like, let's be real here.
Mm-hmm.
It's more the gunplay and the martial arts that are the top, like the attraction in those movies. His charisma level is not the highest.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, those are my thoughts on John Wick.
No, you said it all perfectly, honestly. Like, I was looking at John Wick as well as in terms of badassery, someone who's like on God mode cannot be killed in these seemingly impossible odds in shootouts. Bet the house on John Wick coming out of there alive. Like, there's no way a random henchman or even a trained what is he called in John Wick 4? Bill Skarsgård, the Marquis. Even
Marquis.
the strongest of assassins have no chance against John Wick. So I don't want to say it makes for a predictable outcome what's gonna happen, but John Wick, there's good odds that he's always gonna make it out alive. And like you said, he doesn't really talk much, which that could be a part of the appeal, right? That he's this silent, less is more, all business badass. But I do enjoy a good dialogue provider in an action movie protagonist, and obviously some humor as well, which he definitely lacks in that department for me. But like his kills and creative ways of taking down people is second to none. So John Wick is
Yeah,
a great pick for that.
yeah.
It's a great pick, Tom Mary.
Yeah, she likes her action movies. Like, we think we've gone to see the last. We've seen all the Mission Impossibles together, and I can't remember if I've seen 3 in the theater. Probably not. I was pretty young. But no, she likes her action movies.
Nice.
What was I going to say? Did you want to jump into? Did you want to talk about the other Mission Impossible, or just jump into random recommendations?
Well,
Whatever you want.
I mean, I don't have too much to say on the other Mission Impossibles other than
Okay.
4, 5, 6. I probably enjoyed in. I enjoy them more each one as I went through those movies. Like 4 is really good.
Yeah.
Like 4 I saw in theaters actually, and I enjoyed the crew there. Jeremy Renner was solid, and I like the set pieces there too, like in the desert, the Burj Khalifa suction cups climbing up there was pretty
Yeah.
unreal, but love to see it. Leia Seydoux is in there as well. She did her thing. Yeah, it was a solid movie. And then Rogue Nation, I remember I was like on my computer at the same time, so I feel like I need to run that one back. But it had some good twists later on in the movie. And then Fallout, I think, was my favorite one. It might be my favorite one, honestly.
yeah.
I think I enjoyed that more than Dead Reckoning Part 1. Henry Cavill. I was able to call one twist in that movie, but there are others that just kept coming, and you're really unsure who to trust the whole time. Amazing action in that one. Yeah, Fallout was fantastic. Like truly, that was one that was hyped up for me for years, and that people couldn't believe I hadn't seen it yet, and said like, "Oh, you're gonna love Fallout," and it did not disappoint. So now I have to run back 1, 2, and 3. That's my next plight for those movies.
Fallout is incredible. Just the helicopter stuff at the end is top notch, and Tom actually did that.
That's crazy.
And I like Solomon 2 and 5 and 6. Like, he's like a nasty little villain. And Ilsa's introduction in Rogue Nation is awesome. Like the scene at the opera house or art house or whatever. Like the whole like through the sniper scope. Like I remember scenes like that. It's been a while, but I remember like a nice. Anyways, beautifully shot movie. 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, I think 4, 5, 6, 7 are better action movies than 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3 suffer more from like the times, like. But you'll see when you watch them, we'll talk about it some more.
Okay.
But they're really of the times of when they came out, and 4, 5, and 6, and 7 are more like crazy stunts in action. Like, it's on another level. You can't really compare them. But yeah, we'll talk about that another time. I'm curious to know your thoughts, though, because they're still good movies. Did you want to jump into just other recommendations then now, or?
Yeah, I can do that. I have a ton of stuff that I've been watching lately.
Okay.
Shows, movies, and I'll go with one movie to start that is on Netflix. That was on Netflix. They took it off, and now it's back on. That I finally got around to watching, which would be The Nice Guys, starring Russell Crowe, Ryan Gosling. Great movie, honestly. It's kind of a dark comedy kind of drama as well, that you follow these two private investigators that are hired to find a missing woman who, well, like, there's a lot going on. Honestly, like, explaining the plot might even take me too much time to do. But I would say go in as blind as possible, which is why I'm not even going to attempt to explain the plot. But it's pretty straightforward once you're in there. Like, private investigators hired to find a woman, and then there are more players that enter the game. You travel along. It's set in the 70s, I'm pretty sure. And I love everything about the setting, in the costumes, the colors, how it's shot to it, had a truly old school feel to it, and how the cuts are made when they're just driving around the city and then they're turning a corner and the camera changes angles and you're seeing the car turn the corner from another angle. Like, I don't know, there's something about it that just brought me back to an era where I wasn't alive but could picture the movies were made that way. So it was just cool to see. And it's very funny. There's a lot of funny moments in this one. And I cited it in my review as like one of the funnier movies of the 2010s. Would love to see more movies like this. It was Russell Crowe for me that made me laugh more. Everyone was talking about Ryan Gosling. I thought he was great, but there's something about Russell Crowe's dry delivery and just the violence for humor always hits for me, and he packs a punch in this one, let me tell you. So I would definitely recommend The Nice Guys on Netflix.
Yeah, when I saw that you rewatched it, I decided to rewatch, or you watch it, I decided to rewatch it, and it's a great movie. Not buddy comedy because they're not buddies, but it has that feel, like the banter. The banter is amazing. You said it, like It's what makes the movie and what moves the story along. Is it a little convoluted at the beginning? Maybe, but it all ties together at the end. Everything is like brought back. Setting is great, like you said. I love when they go to that like party and Ryan Gosling's daughter comes too, and I'm like, what is she doing there? But it's hilarious. Quick pace movie. Like it's there's always something going on. Russell Crowe is he's a great actor. An amazing actor. Way better than Ryan Gosling will ever be. Well, maybe that's not fair to say, but Russell Crowe is a great actor. He's a little past like the spotlight in this, and when the movie came out, like he was more like 10 years before that, but he can still deliver. Anyways, I was gonna mention the movie too and say like, yeah, it's aged really well. Nice. Good stuff, Eric. There's another one on Netflix that I watched. I hadn't seen. I didn't go to the theater or anything to watch this, and it popped up on Netflix, and it's called Nobody with Bob Odenkirk.
Nice.
This movie, didn't know what to expect. My mom watched it. She said, "Matt, I'm going to rewatch this with you because I think you'll love it." And I did love it. Like, I love it. I really, really liked it. It was 90 minutes long, not a wasted moment, just action, intrigue, and a great performance by Bob Odenkirk. And that's all I needed in this movie. I didn't need anything super complicated or over the everything in this little world of this movie, everything worked, and it was really good. It had shades of like The Equalizer and all these other action movies, but you know what? It worked. It did not overstay its welcome. It's a fun watch, quick watch, which is important. And it's weird seeing Bob Odenkirk in this role, which kind of like keeps you interested the whole movie because you're not used to seeing that. So Nobody, it's on Netflix. It's really, really good, Eric. I recommend you watch it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to check.
Have you heard about it?
Yeah, I've definitely heard about it. It's just funny to see, like, from what I remember seeing from the trailers is It has maybe shades of John Wick. Like, it is an action movie over the top, where I want to say this retired, some sort of operative or covert op or whatever, used to be in this life, and now people come for him and he has to fight them off to protect his family. I'm just going off what I vaguely remember, and you're getting over the top action, which would be funny to see Bob Odenkirk deliver for. Like, he's an older man, not really in shape, and must be curious to see, but I've only heard good things about it. So your recommendation is that extra stamp of approval
Yeah.
that I needed, and I don't have much going on tonight, so maybe I'll throw that on in the mix tonight. Who knows? Right on.
Do it. It's so
glad to hear
quick.
that.
Such a quick watch. Such a quick watch. You should do it. Yeah.
Nice. So my next one would be. There's a few I could go with. I'll go with another one, like not a movie, a TV show that has been on my list for a long time. Very hyped up, and while I have this streaming platform, I want to take advantage of everything that it offers. It was your number 2 pick in our best TV show draft, which would be Band of Brothers. Finally got around to watching that. I had started it years ago, but never finished it. And I just fully committed to this, and it did not disappoint. Again, amazing series, very intense. Obviously, you're recalling there's real life events that happened in this mini series, and you're getting testimonies from the veterans who are talking about what their experiences were like, and then you're cutting back to the action. The acting is unbelievable. So many actors you recognize from different things. And I love how they told the story too. You're not necessarily following one or two characters the whole time. You're kind of shifting one episode to the next who we're following, and their perspective and different role in the war is a kind of like, again, microcosm of everyone else's experiences. This, you're following this one battalion, Eazy Company, but there are a bunch of Eazy companies around Europe as the war was happening, and you can imagine that similar things were happening within their platoons and all of that. So all these different personalities, different roles, pressures, crazy action to dark times, and yeah, so definitely strong recommend Band of Brothers. I feel like it's something you could rewatch as well. One of my friends has seen it quite a few times, and who knows, down the road I'll probably spin it again, because I was having a hard time following who was who, because a lot of them looked similar. Honestly, it was really hard to remember. Like, okay, is that Picante? And there's a few that I knew who they were because they visually look quite different than others. And obviously, your Captain Winters and Nixon, those two are very easy to know like what their names were. But others, like, there's quite a few that look very similar, so it's tough to say. But yeah, really good, strong recommend Band of Brothers.
Awesome. I rewatch it a lot, but honestly, I never rewatched the last 2 episodes because they're too devastating in my opinion. And hearing the veterans talk is just like, it's just so sad, and like it's too much sometimes. And especially the episode where they liberate like the concentration camps. It's like disgust. It's morbid. But there's some great like there's some great moments, like the Baston episode, like 5 and 6, I think, when they're like in the snow and like, great stuff. Like when they get there and they see a line of soldiers coming out of there and they look like ragged and dead, and they're like, and the lines pass each other, and then they're going in there, and it's like, it's a great show, great miniseries. Yes, they all look the same under their GI helmets. But no, I'm glad you watched it, Eric. That's awesome. I kind of want to rewatch it now. Just, I don't know. Good stuff. The show I've been watching is not as intense or powerful as Band of Brothers. I'm just continuing along with The Witcher, the first part of season 3. I think 5 episodes were released, and the other ones at a later date. Basically, I'm sure we'll talk about this more in depth maybe when the 2 parts come out, but The Witcher season 3 part 1, it's very much so an appetizer to what's to come in the next part. I got a nice taste, but I wanted more, and then episode 5 ended, and I was like, okay, I want to see more now. So it was a nice little like preheating the oven for what's to come, but like it was frustrating because I wanted more after the last episode ending. So that's The Witcher season 3. Did you start that yet, Eric?
I did. I'm actually all caught up. So I'm ready for
Yeah.
the next wave. There's 3 episodes left. So those are out next
Okay,
Friday at the
3.
time of recording. And yeah, I'm enjoying the season. Like I don't want to say too much, but it's getting a lot of hate online, which I'm surprised
Right.
at.
Yeah.
But I think it's because people are more on the Henry Cavill side of things because they deviated from, I guess, the books or video games or whatever. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
nerds, you can have your games and books. Like I'm enjoying this for what it is, and it's solid. Like I have
Exactly.
no problem with
Yeah.
it.
No, exactly. I don't even know the source material, so I'm enjoying it too. I'm enjoying it so much that when it just ends, I'm like, okay, I want the next 3 episodes out now. But yeah, no, I've been enjoying. That's the show. I mean, I gotta pick a new show. I'm still doing Black Mirror as well. I think once I'm done Black Mirror, all 6 seasons, I'm gonna do like highlight of my favorite episodes. But that's a show, honestly, that I'm loving Black Mirror.
Nice.
Like I just watched the Jesse Plemons episode.
Oh yeah, that was
Or
great.
the Star Trek-esque episode, I guess I call it. That was freaking hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, that was great.
That was the first
Loved
episode
it,
I ever
so,
saw
no.
of Black Mirror. That's what got me into it. It was, I think that's season 4,
Yeah.
season 3 or 4.
Yep.
And then I went back and watched them after that. But Plemons, the guy, he continues to surprise us all. Am I right? Like he's in the next like
Yeah.
Scorsese movie. I watched the trailer. Kind of not against my will. I didn't want to, but it was playing in theaters before Mission Impossible. Then there's the knock at the door, and Jesse Plemons is there. I was like, of course he is. Like, this guy. It's so good.
He's going to win an Oscar one day. He will win an Oscar one day. I'm not even joking. He's that, like, prominent right now in the industry.
He got robbed for the power of the dog.
He was good in that movie. He was good in it.
I couldn't finish it. That was like just a slog to get through. 40
Yeah, it was.
minutes, I called it quits. It's another, the trial of the Chicago 7 all over again.
Yeah.
Nice. What was I going to say? So just quickly, another one I'm watching, Secret Invasion. Have you started that, Matt, on Disney+? Plus?
I've seen the first episode. Do I need to continue?
Like, it's all right. There's honestly nothing special. I think now there's one episode
shit.
left. There's no way they end on such a bang that makes this become a must-watch show. I think they're doing some things well. Other things are a bit underwhelming. Piss poor villain, in my opinion. And it's really not as different as it could have been, which is unfortunate because the premise is something we love in Marvel when they go down the spy route, and the story they chose to tell, again, which has been the theme with these Marvel shows, is just a bit underwhelming. And yeah, it's definitely a turn though. They're not going the goofy comedy route in this one, which I'm appreciating. And there are times where I'm like, wow, this is really a different way to shoot a Marvel show. But then they go back to some of their old ways with, I don't know, maybe unrealistic in a bad way, stuff that happens. Cheesy, campy, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not going to be on my list of top shows of this year, that's for sure. But, well, anyways.
Yeah.
So
I don't know what's going on. Yeah. I was just gonna say if they had done this 15 years ago, it may have been a better show but we've seen there's so much content ahead of this that this has to be differentiates. It has to like stand above the pack, and I feel like nothing's stood above the pack recently. It's all formulaic, cookie cutter stuff. So I don't know. Marvel's. I know we can listen back to an episode where we're all like gushing over the new Marvel announcements, but if we can go back and be like, yeah, this stuff is not going to be that great. Like, I don't even know if we believe ourselves.
I know, it's wild. I have gone back and listened.
It's wild.
It's jarring.
Yeah.
The youthful innocence
we
in
expect-
our voices.
Yeah, we expect great things from them because they've delivered the last decade, but now in the 2020s, it's been very lackluster. But yeah, we've talked about that so many times. We'll jump off that. I've been rewatching a lot of movies too. I mean, the other movie I watched was Fast 10. I'm sure we'll do a trilogy recap when they all come out. But
Mm.
it was a entertaining movie. I was never bored watching this movie. It kind of ended on a, like you said, too much of a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed Fast 10. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
Same.
it was like a guilty pleasure, like fun ass movie, cheesy. I love those types of movies. Um, it set it up well, I guess, for 11 and 12. But yeah, I don't know. A good comfort food movie. What do you think?
Agreed. I enjoyed it a lot. I think it was better than 8 and 9. I think them making two more of these is crazy though. What are we gonna do? Like we can't stretch this Dante storyline for two other movies. Am I right? So I don't know. I'm
I
not
don't
gonna
know.
don't want to spoil anything, but I straight up called quite a few things that happened in this movie. Two things that were supposed to be big twists. I saw two of them coming a mile away. One I did not, which was near the end, not the one that would have ties with Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. That,
Okay.
you know what I'm talking about? The end. That I saw
Yeah.
coming in that whom would be a part of that situation. Saw that coming, but me, it was the twist. And anyways, I hate talking in riddles. We'll just talk offline after. But
Yeah.
yeah, the last thing I want to recommend is something called Puck Doku. Have you heard of this, Matt? It's like a daily puzzle on that you can do on your phone. Puck Doku.
Never heard of it.
So it's basically a small grid, 3 by 3, where in each column and row there's a team, an NHL team, and you're supposed to find a player that's played for both the teams where they intersect. So vertically you'll have 3 teams, and horizontally you'll have 3 teams, and you try to find a player that'll fit in each box in there. So it's a fun. I've been doing this for the last few
Cool.
weeks. It's tough. Trust me. There's sometimes I'm like, there has never once been a player in the history of the game that's played for San Jose and Columbus. It just has not happened. But apparently it has. So when you're done, and you only have 9 shots to. So once you make one mistake, you can't get a perfect grid. So me, if I'm on a quest of maybe I'm on a nice run of 5 for 5, and then I make one mistake at 5 for 6, then I start losing interest. I just rapid fire some shots off. Like I do try to get the best score I can, but if I'm on a nice run, it gets ruined. Then I lose the motivation. I want to get like 8 for 9 or whatever. So it's fun though. I'd recommend it. And there's oftentimes a column where it's not a team. It's like a player who scored 40 goals for this team, and then horizontally you have to put a player that's done that for that team. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of fun. It's a thinker though. There'll always be like 1 or 2 spots that are easy. I got someone, but there's a few you're gonna really start to imagine things. Trust me. I imagine that I convinced myself that Kimmo Timonen played for Philly and Colorado. He never played for Colorado. Never played for Colorado. So
Yeah, your mind plays tricks on you. That's cool.
Yeah,
It's like a hockey Sudoku. I like it.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Sweet. Yeah, I got nothing else to recommend. I've been fairly busy with work schedule change and watching baseball every day, so that eats up my time too.
Yeah. All right. Well, no, this went long again on this one, but a lot of stuff to talk about. So next one, we'll just give a quick tease if we stick to the plan, which I think we will. We'll do a Oppenheimer and Christopher Nolan movie recap. We'll talk about more of his movies, not just Oppenheimer. So I'll be prepared to speak on those. And my take, I just want to get this out there before we go see it. My take on Oppenheimer was that I think it has the potential to be a letdown. It's not going to live up to the hype. Now, at the time of recording, people have started to see the movie, and I'm only hearing good things. So my take might be in jeopardy. And you know what? I hope I'm 100% wrong. I hope I love this movie. And I hope that the next time you hear me talk about Oppenheimer anyways, that I'm pleasantly surprised. So that's my thoughts on Oppenheimer going into it.
My thoughts are it's not going to be like his highest high, but it's going to be better than Tenet and like the last few. Better than Dunkirk and Tenet. Yeah.
Yeah, I could
My
definitely
take.
see that. I haven't even seen Dunkirk, honestly.
Yeah. Well, you'll have to get on it before next week.
Yeah, exactly.
Possibly. Yeah.
I gotta say, that could be another one too down the road. Actually, war movie pod, but we'll see. We'll keep that.
Oh, for sure.
We'll keep that in the chamber.
For sure.
So yeah, thanks a lot everybody for listening. Matt, great job again. Love your list, and like I said, if anyone hasn't seen any of those movies, go check them out or just rerun them. I think watch the Planet of the Apes movies again. Go through the Aliens catalog. Indiana Jones. Actually, I haven't seen the new one, but I'm looking. I do want to see it. So yeah, Matt, any final notes for the listeners?
No, just thank you everybody for listening. I enjoyed doing this episode with you, Eric. Your list was great too. A lot of surprises on there, and I hope everybody got some good recommendations too. So thank you all, and hope you're having a great summer right now.
Agreed. So yeah, thanks a lot everybody for listening. Stay tuned for episodes dropping every 2 Mondays. Continue to stay safe. Love you all, and yeah, peace.